Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome everyone to our Q&A Thursdays. And we have to see what we want to do today. I mean, we had Karen last time mentioning like, oh, I mean, we are doing two books. It may be a little bit confusing or too much. I don't know. So the big picture is a very introductory book. It's a concise version of a hyper concise introduction into Vedanta. We have looked into the basis of values, and then we went into different yogas, preparatory yogas. There is a mic open that's making a lot of noise. Who is it?
Ruth.
Ruth, okay.
Can you?
So we got through. We moved from values into the scriptures and the books of Vedanta, and then we went into Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and now we would be moving into Jnana Yoga. So we have the option to walk a little bit through the structure of this book, but we could also begin with some questions. So has everybody been to the last Panchadas class? Mark, were you there? Yeah, no? So David was not there, but I don't know. David sometimes he catches up with the videos. So if does
I wasn't there in person, Arlindo, but I have caught up. I watched the video last night.
I remember. Yeah, you haven't been there. So do we have any questions as we progress with Panchadasi in that area of how the creation unfolds and Maya and all of that? So we want to go into in that direction. Yes, Lynn.
My question is not well formulated. I apologize up front. But as we are going through the unfoldment of the manifestation, it seems an evolutionary thing, a progressive thing. And but at the same time, I understand that it's all immediate, that there really is no progression. So is that understanding correct? And how is the best way to look at the explication, that the evolution of all this with that understanding, if that is correct?
Yeah. So if I understood your question was very nicely elaborated, and it's there are two theories, as we hear Ramji mentioning from time to time. There are two theories of how creation was brought into existence. You know, this manifestation, grossification of energy. We have evolutionary, a theory that it evolved, and then when we look into evolution, we begin from the get-go, really, from the most fundamental Sattva Guna, which is the intelligent cause of the universe. And then we go beautifully and elegantly. Now we begin looking into those verses that unfolds how these three basic qualities of energies combines, grossifies, and then develops, the sense organs, and then develops the five subtle elements, and then they develop the sense organs, and then they start creating the universe and the experiencers of the universe, all living creatures. So that's how it somehow evolves. So Vedanta also says that this evolution is not really in the sense of evolution, from the standpoint of this evolutionary process in which the first the first atoms came, and then the first living creatures came into this planet and kept change. So my understanding is that what we call evolution in the world of science is just a fact. It's just what we know to be meteor, that which appears as different names and forms, which never remains the same from one moment to another. So it appears to us that there is an evolution, but then some may say that it's not evolution, it's involution. But the only sure thing we know is that there is a continuous change in this manifestation. And it seems that things manifest, things change, following a certain principle, which is the survival of the species. Every living creature is a species, and they struggle for preservation of the species, procreation and preservation in the mineral, in the vegetal, and the animal. So everything is trying to strive to remain, and then they preserve themselves. We see all those beautiful adaptations, in nature, by science. There are beautiful documentaries about science and the way it keeps changing, and it seems that the main force is the strive for existing as a name and form. It's building. Every creature has a love to be, love to exist, and they do what they can to survive. You understand? So it appears that it's evolving, but the only thing we can say now, it's nature that is in continuous flux of change. Okay, and we know that it did not really have a beginning, because it exists, beginninglessly, eternally, and then it comes into existence, and then it keeps evolving in the sense that it keeps changing. When we observe our culture, and then we see that it seems that human beings are changing. But but when we look a little bit more carefully, technology has improved this and that, but the human being is still an object with three bodies, operate by huge amount of avidya, ignorance. If in the past, our ignorance was being expressed in a more rude and violent way, nowadays it's masquerade with sophistications, but there is a lot of violence and injustice, cruelty, as we know well. So we are still seeing the same jivas. Culture changed, the surround changed, the seats changed, the nations changed, but the basic thing is that there is an object. And it seems that we had several civilizations before, some studies, archaeology and some other studies. They go back thousands of years, knowing that there was human beings with similar, if not more advanced technology, living on this planet. So it seems that the jivas are here. We don't know how it evolved from other species. There are so many theories out there, but generally speaking, in the universe, it seems there is life, and it seems there is life on different places, possibly, and there is intelligent life, and possibly far more intelligent than what we experience here. And when we talk about intelligence, we are talking about more knowledgeable from the standpoint of science, technology. But the spiritual ignorance, it remains the same. You understand? So the ignorance in regards to the true nature of this universe and of the I, the self of every individual is very dense. It's ignorance is operating. We have some cultures that develop a little bit more sense of freedom, democracy, and justice, and some others are terrible here nowadays, but basically, fundamentally, there is this huge ignorance, spiritual, I call it spiritual ignorance and spiritual knowledge, which was revealed by the scriptures. So we don't know how exactly it goes about. We know that it never really began because it exists, okay? It's when it goes completely out of manifestation, it still holds its existence, you know, in the macrocosm level, you know, in the macrocosm causal level. So it's all there. I see the cement. So it's very difficult. I haven't seen any text of Vedanta that enters into those. But the fact is that the instant creation is just like boom. When Ishvara comes into play, he mixes up the three energies and then brings about the subtle elements and then grossifies, develops the sense organs, and then with the sense organs, now they develop the five elements, and then out of the five elements he needs, I mean, the whole thing is designed to, he cannot bring a creation without an experiencer, an agent to experience and know it. With the development of the five elements in its subtle formations, simultaneously the sense organs, you know, develop, and then you have the game of phenomenal objects, and then a perceiver of phenomenal object, and then these creatures, you know, they become more sophisticated, or maybe they have always been, you know, some intelligence higher than most of the insects and fishes and animals. And I mean, it brings to my mind again that one of those quotes of Mr. Steve Hawking, when he said not long before he left his body, he said that the human beings, intelligent life, it comes to a point of technological development. You know, they reach a point of so much science and technology being developed that they almost invariably they go extinct. He says like civilization tends to go extinct when it comes to a point that they develop so much technology, and the technological development does not come with spiritual development as well. They remain totally ignorant, but now you have this stupid ignorant, like children in analogy, playing with very dangerous technologies, you know, that may serve the purpose to make danger wars, or try to suppress and control the other nations, and all this madness that we see in the world, you know. So I don't know if it covers your question, but fundamentally it's brought about like that, okay? And then it keeps change from moment to moment. And then if we want to look at it in terms of evolution, and then we need to put it in very, very, very slow motion, and then try to understand the way energy becomes the elements, and from the elements the sense organs, and then the complex, you know, living organisms, you know. So we can see that in a slow motion when we just study something, and then we see, wow. And this is only possible through the scriptural knowledge that was revealed to us. I mean, science has no clue about this, and they would never really understand, because they never thought about another order, another principle, another factor called satya. Everything they do within mithya, you understand? So what you were going to say, Lynn?
I was thinking about when we're talking about Prakriti and the gunas and the Jiva Jagat Ishvara. I heard once, and I'm not sure it was in relation to this, but this is how I recall it, that Ramji was talking about, you know, those nested Russian dolls, that the creation is, that all these seemingly subtle levels that seem distinct are really all present right now.
Yeah.
I had an experience, of course, because I'm here in this gross and subtle body, but of an experience of recognizing the macrocosmic subtle body. It's like a seeing, but not really with your eyes. You know, I don't know how to express it, but basically, is it correct to think that everything is all those different layers that we talk about with language are actually just one thing here now? And that the language is just a way to help us appreciate the subtleties. I'm not sure if I'm getting to my question directly or leading you astray, but it confuses me when we use language and then, but the whole thing is timeless. You know, and sometimes you can just arrive at that timelessness, but
well,
that was my hurdle, talking about the Prakriti and everything like that.
The timelessness belongs to Satya. You understand? In Mithya, space-time is the structure. Mithya is based structure around space and time. When you create space, and then a lot of different names and forms appears in it, and then immediately we have the perspective of time, okay? Because just imagine something appears to the knower experience and then disappears, and then something appears again, and the knower appears again, and then very soon the knower thinks, I say, wow, there is a gap between one experience and another. There is a distance between this me here and Mark there. So I want to visit Mark. You understand? So immediately duality brings about the space-time perspective or structure or paradigm. You understand? So when we talk about phenomenon, it's all in time. You understand? But when you hear, for example, Ramji or other teachers say, in truth, there is no time. Yeah, there is no time when you stand in Satya. You understand? In Satya, there is no time. So time comes into play once there is this superimposition of variety, infinite numbers of names and forms. So when that takes place, and then immediately we have the time-space structure, you understand? And then when we look into the time, we say, wow, yesterday I had this and this for lunch. Today I'm gonna have this and this, okay? So it appears like that because it is one experience, another experience, and then our memory, only our memory holding those experiences creates a sense of time. But in truth, okay, even though it appears to be a timely thing, you know, in truth, it's not really time, because there is only one experience, you know, which is consciousness experience through these small reflectors called the jiva, phenomenal objects. You know, it's like I say, consciousness in association with the subtle body, you know, and then makes about the jiva, and the jiva connects all the other objects. Where is the time involved with that? We can say that this is just, boom, the only game in town. It's the only thing going on. You understand? But consciousness apparently associate with a subtle body producing this jiva atma, and this jiva atma relating to other objects appears as if it's something in time. Okay, so but is there really time except yes, there is, but only in our memory. Is there time except in our memory? No, there isn't, because there is no yesterday. Why? Because yesterday was just now, exactly like now. It was just consciousness experience itself in contact with another object. So there is only this reality, consciousness appearing to experience something, you know, and then it's held in memory, and then it appears that it was a day ago, 2 days ago, three days ago. But in fact, okay, if we remove this memory element, just, I mean, my wife had an experience of working with some patients in the United States, and some of them had Alzheimer. And it's so interesting because there is no sense of time to them, you know. they just like, and almost feel like there is only them experiencing whatsoever appears before their eyes, but because they don't make much of any registration, it's like Ramji present one of his favorite jokes, the guy took him to his mother who had Alzheimer, and then he would say like, I'm gonna tell this joke, I told her 100 times, and she has great fun every time. It sounds like great, wow, wonderful. You only need a joke and you can enjoy yourself for the rest of your life with one single joke. But the person cannot function because the whole structure of media is space-time, and we need to remember that we have to pay bills tomorrow. If we forget about that, we cannot function in duality. So the same thing is the future. Where is the future? The future is just a thought of anticipation of what may be coming next. You understand? And the past is another memory, it's another thought. Oh, this and this happened yesterday. Okay, but the fact is that we are all the time just as consciousness experiencing ourselves in this apparent order of subject-object, the jiva, the knower, experiencer, and the other objects that appears to him. This creates a sense of time, you understand? So time does exist in media, but it's an appearance altogether, But the fact is that it's all like, consciousness experience itself, it's more or less on those lines, my take, you understand? So what is this instant, as opposed to evolution? Evolution is just the same game. It's just consciousness experience itself through the agent, the experiencing agent. Experience what? Other objects, but it's all a mirage. It's all a superimposition. It's all a projection. Okay, that is not really real, and it's almost useless to talk in terms of instantaneous or progressive creation, because it does not really exist. It exists like a mirage. You understand? So when we look at a mirage, you can see the mirage is changing. When we see a rainbow on the sky, you'll see that it keeps modifying and changing. So what is a question of time except in the mind of the observer as a thought, thought time. You understand? What do you think, David?
Well, I stepped out in the middle of that, and unfortunately I had to. So, rather than just say something, I'll just be quiet.
Okay.
I'm sure it was very insightful, Arlindo.
Okay. Anybody else? Does anyone like to say something about this? So, we know that as far as this multi-dimensional experience, it's said that the scripture says Vedanta does not really go into exoterism. In the esoteric or mystical world, the Vedas address a little bit that there are 7 levels up and 7 levels down. So above us, there are 6 other celestial realms. Okay, and there are a lot of people. I have friends, I have people involved with Vedanta that gives me satsangs about his astral trips and so on, and I keep listening, and I see that the person is still very much invested and obsessed with those experiences. And my take is that all of these realms is just media. And the question is, so if you attach to this level of experience, you may be more attached to that than the attachment you have for this order, physical, material structure, called the manifest universe, world that we live in. But anyhow, what is that? It's still duality. It's still a subtle, one aspect of our body, because as we know, just living this life here associated with the physical body and the subtle body, we know that we have three bodies. Yeah? We experience the awakened state by with in association with one medium, which is the visual body, and then we go into dream state. We use another body, okay, and then we go to become the deep sleeper. We use another body. So we know that we travel in those three realms of experience, okay, by using three different bodies. So we have other bodies that allows us to go into other dimensions, etheric or astral or whatever, one of those. And some people, somehow, they have a vasana to do that. And what I often tell is like, Jesus, all media. And once we understand that, and we are focused, our main love, our main value, our main passion is to understand the nature of the observer of all kinds of different experience. I mean, when we go into dream state, there is duality there. There is an agent, the dreamer, using the dream body, which is different from our physical body, and it has its sense organs, because in the dream we can see, smell, hear, etc., touch, and is experience the objects of the dream world. So we say it's not real, but is it less real than this one here? Because there is a body, there is a jiva, and there are objects, different vibrations, and then the structure of the world is different. So likewise, what is the value of become obsessed with the dream world to the point that they say, oh no, I want to live this life exploring the dimension of the Taijasa? I mean, it's an useless obsession. So the same way you can get caught up with these astral trips, in which you go and with a certain vehicle, a certain medium, and then you go into these things. So I hear there very, very seldom I hear Paramarthananda mentioned briefly, but he never goes into these things. It's how much leaves it alone. Although there are some passages of it in the Vedas, but it goes into the mystical. Vedanta is about knowledge of the nature of the traveler. And the traveler may use different mediums, different bodies, you understand? But Vedanta is concerned about the understanding, the revelation about the nature of the traveler. So no, the traveler as a Vishwa, as a Taijasa, as a Pranya, and many other bodies, because I heard some expositions of Swami Paramarthananda, and says that all these different lokas we can travel, and we go to them utilizing different mediums, different bodies. And where are this body from? It's our body, but on a different frequency, on a different vibration, you understand? So that brings about all this knowledge about frequency of energy, and refine your energy so that you can access these different locus. But in the mystical esoteric world, this has a huge appeal. But in Vedanta, we don't really go much into those things,
It's all just consciousness and a thought.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of intention, and like with knowledge comes intention. So let's say we're exploring the different realms or an astral world or some other aspect with the intention of creating a more sattvic environment for ourselves, for us to assimilate knowledge, jnana. Perhaps then in that intention, it's good. Now, I'm not saying that that's what everybody's intention is, but if we're in a situation where we have some exposure to Vedanta, and then we need to explore some other things in order to feel more sattvic, to feel more, more at peace and more, grounded, calm, and all that, then does it really? Then to me, it's okay. that you're doing that. It's all about your intention. Other people are doing it and they have no idea what they're doing it, but their intention is to solve Mithya or something.
Well,
And,
I mean, if
and
I
that's not gonna happen.
understand your what you were bringing here, you know,
Okay.
you seem to be saying that even if people have an interest on this mystical aspect of experience, you know, if he does that or if she does that with the intention of producing more sattva and more knowledge, okay, and then all is good. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was with you until you said all is good, but that's, I'd like to get away from judging, but I'm just thinking, yeah, if we're trying to do is explore things to see what we can do to create an
Yeah.
environment so that we can, you know,
understand.
spiritual development, it's fine to do that to the extent that it diverts you and you pursue a more mystical approach, which is more of an individualistic, then perhaps the caution is you know, be mindful of what you're doing. And,
Yeah, it's not a question of being judgmental about the mystical people, you know. I mean, but we have those statements very, very clearly made by our Mahatmas, our scriptures. Vedanta has nothing about mysticism or esotericism. Vedanta is just about knowledge, and why it is important. I mean, we know. I mean, the next paragraph here is Yana Yoga and the importance of the knowledge yoga, okay, as the only means to freedom, really, okay. So, and another point to understand is that all these esoteric, mystical travelings or trips or experience, you know, usually we use mediums, you know, in which our intellect is not really very, very properly structured, you know. So our intellectual faculty, and again, we need to draw a parallel with the dream state. When we are dreaming, and I had these conversations a few times also with Ramji, when we are dreaming, it's the intellect is not really properly conscious and really structured in a way that it can discriminate and extract beautiful lessons. It takes us to come out of the dream and try to recollect those very subtle memories of the dream world, and then with the awakened intellect, you know, with the intellect of the visual, and then we can try in retrospect to draw to bring about some learnings, some insights. You understand why? Because the intellect of the medium called the Taijasa, which is a body, and it somehow it responds to the stimulus. It begins by not understanding that the tiger is just a projection of one's own fear. It does not even manage to discriminate that. And then when you see the person is there sweating bad because he's running away from a tiger. So is this a very, very good intellectual faculty? No, it does not understand that the vasana, the fear in the vasana is producing that experience, you understand? So we have the best use of our intellect is not in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's not, you know, in the dream, it's not in this traveling in the lockets. You know, I mean, there was a period in my life that I was very much interested. I used to live in the USA, and I was interested, and I met a woman. She was, at the time, she was the queen of this traveling, you know, traveling in the astral. And she used to have her missions. And I was fascinated. I was listening to all of that, understand? And it became clear to me that the insights she was getting from it was when she was coming back to the awakened state as a visual, you understand? And then how good is those insights? You understand? It's subject to one biases, one interpretations. And I mean, it's like trying to analyze a dream. It's not easy. It's already difficult to remember the dream totally, and then to really analyze it, you know, it's not so easy. So Vedanta puts all one efforts in the awakened state, the state in which our intellectual faculty is really fully available. I mean, it's already difficult in the awakened state because we have so much rajas and tamas making this work more difficult, you know. That's why we want to cultivate more sattva, and all of that, David, is possible as a visual in the waking state, utilizing, you know, this medium that we are used to gain knowledge, you know. One time I asked Ramji this question: when we leave this body, and then we go into these different lokas, can we continue going, growing, and get self-knowledge? Disembodied from a physical, you know, apparatus, here we go. Can we keep doing our self-inquiry and growing? And he did not go there. He just said, no, it cannot be possible, because those realms, you're gonna be there, but only exhausting punya papa, and your discrimination there is very poor. Understand? You are just subjectively experience punya papa, you know, and you are vibrating on the level of the other souls that are also exhausting punya papa. So that's why you end up finding people, you know, more or less on the same spiritual level as you, but you are just experiencing one's vasanas, one's own, you know, one's own punya papa. That was his short question, and I haven't seen anybody exploring any real self-knowledge teacher. I used to be fascinated with this question when I was very much living around the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj and Brahmana. And every time they used to mention something about this esoteric thing, I would like, and there was very little being said, you know. Nobody really wants to go there. They don't give energy to this thing. They just say, bring the person to here, you know, reincarnation, all of that, you know. Ramana used to present a simple, twice I heard of at least, they say, no, in reincarnation, this and that. I say, no, there is no reincarnation. There is no reincarnation. No, it's only the mind that reincarnates. You do not reincarnate, you know. It's just the thought. In other words, not the thought that's going to need another medium to carry on this game of experience until it converts the desire for experience into a desire for self-knowledge, you know. So there is no need to go into all of that, because we have those orientations clearly when we look into the life of people, yeah? Self-realized souls, even if they are not Vedantic people, but you look into the answers of Nisargadatta Maharaj, that I read all his books several times, and I watched everything about him. They never go into these things, you know. Okay, so what next?
Arlindo, I only one thing, but I don't understand. Does the Vedanta or the Vedas accept the fact that we have an astral body, a direct body, you know, all these stuffs, or not? I don't understand this, because in Vedanta we talk only the subtle body, the mind, the intellect.
No. We in the Vedanta we talk about the three bodies that are relevant to the Vishwa, to the Jiva. You understand? In this realm, in this mitya, this manifestation, this physical material manifestation, we operate with three bodies. And then Vedanta wants to free the individual from rebirth, and also from the attachment to punya and papa of all these lokas. You understand? You want to free the individual, the soul, altogether, and then it addresses these three bodies. But when you go into the esoteric field, you know, and then they are going to be so fascinated with astral travels, you know, and then they are going to, oh no, and I have been to different schools, and every school has different structure. Some says you have these many levels, these many, you know, there are differences depending on the spiritual structure. But Vedanta is concerned of those three three bodies, you know, and the three states of the jiva
Okay.
in here, because it's in here that we can gain
Yeah.
self-knowledge and be free from attachment to experience.
Okay. Okay. I have another question about experience, and I see, no, we say Satchitananda, the self is Satchitananda, so consciousness, awareness is always there, existence is always there. But I was asking me, what about experience? I know that experience is consciousness plus a thought, but from the point of view of the jiva, we can say that there is always an experience, because even in deep sleep, even if there are no objects, there are a little experience, no? There is a subtle, no, the subtle, how you say, the prana jiva, no? It's very subtle, but there is a little experience. So from the point of view of the jiva, there is always an experience. So can we say that the self is also the principle of experience, how we can say, but it's experience in his essence form, how we can say, I don't know.
No, the self does not experience.
This is clear. This is clear,
Yeah,
that this self does not experience.
Yeah, and you say consciousness existence is the substratum of everything that happens in media. Okay, so media is just an apparent realm, you know, that occurs every time Maya operates, you know, in which its substratum is the knower, the very, very absolute subject, conscious existence, non-experiencing knower, which is consciousness, that which provides knowingness to Ishvara as the source of knowledge called Sattva-guna, pure Sat, and then it passes it on to the Jiva. So we have consciousness, existence, pervading and as a substratum of this media, okay? It's always there, it's always present, okay? The question is, this substratum is also limitless. It's also ananta, okay? So, but the human jivas, you know, which is the jivas we are concerned about, because knowledge is relevant only from the state of human jivas, because human jiva have a little bit of knowledge and ignorance, and then we suffer. The other animals don't. But from the standpoint of the human jiva, what is missing there is to understand that my nature is Sat, Chit, and Ananta. You understand? Because the true nature of all of this dualistic play is consciousness, existence, you know, by the nature of limitlessness, because it's the only reality. There's nothing more. I don't know if I understood your question very well, but try to elaborate again.
Yeah, only to say that I see that I say from the point of view of the jiva, because I understand that that consciousness, the self, is not experience anything.
Okay.
But from the point of view of the jiva, I have always an experience. I have somehow always a thought in front of me.
Yeah, but
so it was asking me if
go.
The self can we say also that the self is I can find the word, sorry. I had it before the lesson. I thought I must ask you, and I don't find the word now.
Okay, no,
but I see that from the point of view.
I think I grasped a little. I grasped a little bit what you say. I believe I got it. So, I mean, what happens once you know that your consciousness in your primary nature, you know, your fundamental true nature is consciousness. Consciousness does not experience anything. So now, from the standpoint of the jiva, we see this knowledge. So, what do I do with all this experience if I am experiencing less, because, you know, there is no duality in my true nature? You understand? Is that more or less that appears to be a little bit contradictory, or what?
No, I see that also experience is always there from the point of view of the jiva. So can we say that the self is also the, we can say that consciousness is always there. It's not consciousness, I can have the consciousness of a computer, of a person, of something, but I have to see the principle, the consciousness principle. So I have experience of something, but I can also see the principle, the experience itself in its essence form, the experience. Can we say also that this is the self, or?
Well,
Sorry.
well, okay. I mean, Panchadasi presents us, Vidyaranya presents us with a nice structure. Yeah, and he says like that consciousness, everything is consciousness. Okay, and then it is colored, apparently colored by the gunas, and then all names and forms, and then the jivas and so on. So this jiva, it reflects or shines with consciousness to experience the other objects in his or her environment. When this happens, we say that jiva, which is fundamentally consciousness, okay, becomes the agent who experiences the other objects in his environment. And then we say that this jiva, in truth, is consciousness enjoying the status of experiencer, okay, which is nothing but consciousness, okay, in contact with the object. And then it says that it is experience, it is the relational status of consciousness once Maya operates. So everything is consciousness. Consciousness is here, Maya operates, duality, and then there is a thought, and then consciousness by the medium, through the medium is going to experience. And then Vidyaranya says, this is all consciousness enjoying the realm of duality and becoming an experience. And then he says, is the relational state of consciousness, Therefore, he says like experience is equal to consciousness. But experience is not equal to consciousness when he presents that logic. He says that experience is another name of consciousness, and we say is the relational state of consciousness every time Maya operates. You understand? But of course, this relational state called experience, okay, depends on the only reality, which is consciousness, to become an experience, and depends on Maya to project the duality subject-object to become an experience. So experience belongs to Mithya, you understand? But Mithya,
Yes.
okay, Mithya is also Satya, although Satya is not Mithya, you understand? So because all of that is happening within consciousness. And so everything is conscious. So the jiva who knows I am consciousness, he sees and he knows that there is experience happening all the time. Okay? And there is nothing we can do about that, because as long as we have a body and our karma being exhausted, we're going to be an agent experiencing the environment. And there is no problem about that. The yanis usually they develop a dispassion in regards to the medium and the experience, but they are not going to say, no, I don't want to experience anymore. I go to a cave because I'm against experience. No, it's the nature of things. This is our secondary inferior nature, let's say. Appearance is better, appearance nature. This is our appearance nature as an experience. We were created and designed to experience duality. And there is no problem about that. You just develop a dispassion in regards to the body-mind complex, which is the experiencing agent, and the other objects that I associate in the form of physical material objects or thoughts of the object, which creates again and again experiences that have a feel to it. All the time we are feeling these contacts, we are feeling the contact. A thought has a feel, and then we feel. So we cannot avoid that, but we can develop this passion when we understand that those things, they don't define us, and we don't depend on them, and we are free from all of that in our primary, independent, free nature as consciousness. I don't know if it covers your question.
Yeah, yeah, better, because yes, in the Panchadas, like you say, this was the doubt, because he says that experience is the relational, no?
A
What you said before.
relational status of consciousness.
Yeah,
When
yeah, exactly.
when a sought object appears within the scope of
Yeah.
consciousness, and then
Yes.
a sought, as we know, a sought depends on the jiva, the knower.
The
No?
jiva.
Yeah, when a thought occurs in the agent, and then we have a thought or an object that occurs in the mind of the jiva, to produce a thought of the object, and then we have consciousness using the medium. And only through the medium it becomes, what Vidyaranya equated as consciousness in its relational status.
Yeah, this is what I say, because I was also thinking about the
words that serves the purpose to facilitate this work we do. You understand? We should never grab these words. We just have to understand, consciousness, it's not an experiencing entity, but in the same way, but on the other hand, consciousness, is all the time apparently experiencing itself. When Maya comes into play, produce the jiva and produce the other objects, and then there is a thought object appearing in the mind of the jiva, and then consciousness is again and again apparently experience itself. Understand? But
yes.
You cannot experience something that does not really exist, but we have to, consider this affirmation, but we experience a blue sky, we experience a mirage, we experience, rainbow. So we experience a lot of things that are just an illusion, So, and experience is duality. There is an experiencing entity. Consciousness is not an experience, and then phenomenal object that occurs. Some of these phenomena, they are more tangible and they are more truthful, to the structure of a meeting. Some are just, absolutely unreal, like a mirage in the desert.
Yeah.
Yes, Ruth.
The experiencer, it's the experiencer or the jiva is mithya as well. It's chitabhasana, right? I mean, it's like it's all mithya.
Yeah. It's all mithya.
But the underlying ground, as you say, is all satya.
Yeah. Satya is the very nature of the jiva. Yeah. And the jiva exists.
As you say, it's all reflected. It's all apparent appearance.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And Vidyaranya calls the jiva chitabhasa. Chitabhasa. Why? Its abhasa goes to reflected, and chit goes to knowledge. Okay. So sat chit. So the jiva is a reflection with the knowingness ability or knowingness faculty. You understand? Therefore, he calls chit abhasa. And then he calls the other object, the inert object, he calls the satabhasa. Satabhasa is the reflection of a consciousness on inert object. And then you see what? You see sat, you see the existence of the object, but you don't see consciousness in those objects. So chitabhasa and satabhasa. So there are two different terms to explain the sentient object and the inert object. But fundamentally, everything is consciousness. The structure, the underlying truth, or the substratum that makes it possible is the screen on which these phenomenal objects superimposed.
So that says to me that what we can do or reflect upon is creating a very calm or reflective medium, which is the jiva or the screen, but to do what we can to make choices that produces a very calm and peaceful, or a very calm and reflective medium, so that consciousness can be reflected.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's in its pure sense. So, I mean, to me, it's always like, it seems like it gets so complicated, but at the same time, it you know, I'm back to, it's very simple. What do we, what do we need to do? What's the, the karma yoga for creating a reflective medium, which is the jiva. Yeah, Ruth.
It's always reflected. You
Yeah.
can't help but not reflect it. It's always reflected, no matter what the guna, so you just have to, I think you just have to realize that it's just mithya, that no matter what the state, it's not real.
Yeah. So this is a good point, both of you, David, you and Ruth. So what can we do then? You understand? So we understood that the jiva is a reflection of consciousness in one's reflecting medium, So we have the reflecting medium. We have original consciousness in the language of Vidyaranya. OC, original consciousness, RM, reflecting medium, and then RC, reflecting consciousness, okay? OC, RM, and RC. So the jiva, it's a reflection of consciousness in its own subtle body. The subtle body is the microcosmic mirror or reflecting medium, okay? So now, what is the jiva? The jiva is not the reflecting medium. It's not RM. Jiva is RC, reflecting consciousness. But the reflection of consciousness is going to be different in accordance to the condition of the reflecting medium. So there are moments that we are very tamasic, and then we're going to experience and observe our consciousness to be really, tamasic, I'm a little bit down here, I don't understand what's going on. Sometimes we have the reflecting medium, David, which is very rajasic. It's full of, agitation and anxiety and whatever, So when the mirror is conditioned or influenced by too many rajas, and then we experience the reflection to be different. So the jiva is the reflection, but this reflection is not separate from the mirror. It depends on the reflecting medium. You understand? The same way a reflection on the mirror, we go in the bathroom, the reflection depends on the mirror, and it's not separate from the mirror. Okay? So what can we do, David? We understanding this teaching, we say assim, so I have to do something here until I understand my true nature as OC. Why Vedanta say that it's important to work on the reflecting medium? Because we need a more sattvic reflecting medium, in a way that we can have a more sattvic jiva, the RC, reflecting consciousness. We need to have a reflected consciousness, which is more sattvic, so that it can clearly and firmly understand it. I am OC, I'm not RM, and I'm not RC, I am OC. Okay, so we need to develop some sattva only for the sake of having the clarity, the one-pointedness, follow these teachings and contemplate, So these mental qualities are important until this self-knowledge is clear, hard, and fast. Once it's clear, hard, and fast, and then as Ruth said, and then you don't have any more concern about, oh no, I want to have a more sattvic mind here because I'm going to contemplate on the scriptures of Vedanta. No, you are not concerned. Of course, everybody has a more pleasant experience if the reflecting medium is more sattvic, because then the jiva is more sattvic, and then he has a better experience of himself and the world. But once this knowledge is already firm and clear, okay, and all is available, and then it doesn't matter the condition of the reflecting medium and the condition of the reflected consciousness, because the sattvic condition was necessary for me to extract that knowledge in a way that I have no longer doubts in respect to what I am really. You understand? So what can we do? We want to cultivate and develop more sattva in our subtle body. And then we say, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Am I going to do it only by willpower? You can. That's called yoga. You're going to control your thoughts. You're going to control your tamas. You never allow yourself to go into deep sleep. You do things. If you find yourself falling asleep during meditation, and then you keep regular, and then you develop a sattvic mind by the means of yoga. Okay, you can do that by willpower. But Vedanta says the best way to develop more sattva in the reflecting medium is by jnana, is by studying, following the logic of these teachings revealed by the Upanishad, until you neutralize those excessive rajas and tamas that are creating this dense avidya, that does not allow you to really understand what you are. So we need to go back then to yoga, upasana yoga, and then jnana yoga, so that we can gradually reduce rajas and tamas. And then we can see how are we going to reduce rajas and tamas? By understanding that rajasic impulse and tamasic impulse, they are all rooted in my total ignorance in respect to my true nature and the nature of reality. So every time we end up going back to jnana, and the only jnana, you understand? So that you can understand and neutralize those excess rajas and tamas and develop a reflecting medium more sattvic, so that the jiva atma is more sattvic, and it can contemplate until it no longer has doubt in regards to what he is or she is. And then what happens? Once this knowledge is hard, clear, and fast, and all is available, what happens with the reflecting medium of the yoni, and what happens with the reflected consciousness in this medium? Once this jiva-atma got this knowledge, what happens is that the mind, the reflecting medium, and the mind of the yoni develops naturally and effortlessly more sattva. Why? Because it's no longer under the pressure of avidya as before. There is no rajas and tama again and again. And then the yoni, as a bonus, although he's no longer concerned to rajas and the condition of one's reflecting media, the condition of one's mind, he is no longer concerned about, manipulate the gunas. But as a bonus, the mind naturally becomes more sattvic. Why? I don't believe that I need to run to control and to get what I want and to push away what I don't want. I don't need to do that anymore, because I understood that my nature is free, limitless consciousness. You understand? And then the jiva-atma naturally, as a bonus, you see, enlightenment or self-knowledge is not a mental state. Is the knowledge in regards of one's true nature as OC, original consciousness. But once we know it, and then as a byproduct, the mental condition of the yoni is more sattvic. Not that he needs it, but it's the name of the game. Self-knowledge neutralizes rajas and tamas, because rajas and tamas is avidya, is ignorance. You understand? This covers a little bit what Ruth said as well.
I guess I am, if we need to save this for next time, because I know it's getting close to our finish. I'm a little confused about why we're not, as a jiva, both RM and RC. Or RC is more what your goal is, trying to get to reflected consciousness as by removing ignorance.
Yeah, this is a very subtle question, you know, because what I have been observed is that people, a lot of the time, they develop a certain knowledge, spiritual knowledge around Vedanta, but they still remain attached to the reflecting medium. You understand? They get the picture of consciousness being reflected in the subtle body, and then I want to have such a subtle body, I want this, I want to adjust, you know, and they attach to the reflecting medium. Okay, so our goal, Karen, is to understanding that the reflecting medium, it is always going to be constituted by the three energies. Okay, but this mirror like apparatus needs to be more clear, polished a little bit, so that the reflecting consciousness, reflected consciousness, jiva is not the subtle body. The same way jiva is not the physical body, jiva is not the subtle body, jiva is not the causal body. That's why we keep rejecting the three bodies and the five sheets. We just say, no, I'm not this, not this, not this, not this. Not. The jiva is the reflection of consciousness, is RC. Okay, the first thing to understand is I don't want to get attached to the reflecting medium, because the reflecting medium is matter, energy, it's inert. The only way I can really understand what I am is by identifying first with the reflected consciousness, RC. And only then, leaving behind my attachment to my mental conditions, I understand that I am a reflect consciousness, and then from claiming your identity as a jiva as RC, and then you can later on or immediately claim your identity as OC, because RC and OC, they share the same denominator, which is C consciousness. Reflect consciousness is in its nature original consciousness, the same way that the rays of reflect light in a mirror, fundamental, are light rays, which is similar to the original sunlight before it's bounced on the mirror. You understand? So we want to assume our nature. The jiva is not the three bodies. The jiva is not the subtle body. Subtle body is nothing but this sentience, this knowledge, these feelings, this experience, you know, that we have, this ability to feel and thinking and the term. This is all, you know, the jiva. But this jiva, if it is identified with its mental condition, the content of the subtle body, it's far from understand that I am a reflect consciousness. Because once you understand that you are reflect consciousness, and then you will see that this reflect consciousness is going to be all the time reflect, as Ruth said, regardless of the proportions of the three gunas. This reflect consciousness is always shining, you understand? And then you can understand that doesn't matter the condition of this reflecting medium, because whether I'm reflect on more rajas, more tamas, or more sattva, the fact is that I am limitless consciousness, and I am beyond time and space, births and deaths, and so on. That's what frees the jiva from this human suffering. Yes, Ruth?
The analogy I've heard is the moon is jiva, so it reflects the light of the sun onto the water, and the reflecting medium is the condition of the water. So it might be wavy, it might be calm, you know, so yeah. But the moon is reflected light from the sun.
Yeah, the moon is the subtle body. You understand? We can say like, oh, my subtle body has its own light. No, the night belongs to the original light of the sun. You understand? And this reflect light, you know, is going to reveal to us that there is reflect light is original light. Reflect consciousness is original consciousness, you know, because it's the same light, it's the same consciousness. Okay. You got enough? Okay. We meet again next Monday with our Panchadas. I hope you guys are going to be in good shape because we're going to go more and more into those subtle or deep waters of Vedanta. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Love you. See you again. Hugs. Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye now. Thank you.
Ciao.